occhio a vendere Bitcoin, state molto attenti. Quando arriverà a 50.000 euro, 50.000 dollari o anche 100.000 dollari, non fatevi prendere dalla tentazione di vendere. Se proprio dovete vendere, vendeteli, però lasciate almeno un Bitcoin per il futuro, per la vostra famiglia, per i vostri figli. Questo è ciò che dice Bobby Lee. Io sono qua a Medina, a Malta. Bobby Lee ha fatto uno speech da poco, 2 o 3 giorni fa, qui a Malta, e ve lo faccio sentire in questo video.
Good afternoon. Very excited to be here. First time in Malta. How many of you are first time in Malta like me? Oh wow, look, great. What a great day. As someone was asking me, is Bitcoin winter over? And I was saying, I mean, look at the sunshine. Okay, let's get started. The future of money is digital currency, and of course that's the case here. Before we go into why, but let's talk about money started in the past as precious metal, gold, silver, and of course before that as commodities and so on. And what is the problem with today's money? So let me take a step back. So the past is gold and silver. We moved on, and today's money is about the money in our pocket, like the euro, right? The 500 euro, the fiat money, the money in your bank account. But what is the problem with today's money? It's actually this one thing that you can find on your phone and on your computer. What is it? It's control. They have control over your money. They being the institution, the governments, the banks, the financial infrastructure, the central banks, and so on. How do they have control? Well, they have control over your cash. You think you have it, but most of your cash is actually at a bank through an ATM. They have control over your accounts. They have control over transfers. They have censorship ability, and they can set limits on how much you can transfer, at what frequency, what time of day, and so on. And worst of all, they have control over money's value. Money and value is the only thing in the world left where there is not an international standards unit of measurement. Think about that. Of all the things, recently I read an article that they replaced the measurement for kilogram. It used to be this one block of lead, I think, in France somewhere, and now they're using a Planck's constant to measure the kilogram. So we have a unit for mass, the kilogram, a unit for length, the meter. We have a unit for temperature, the Celsius degree. We have a unit for pressure. We have a unit for volume, like the liter. We have a unit for practically everything except for value. So what they try to get away with is, they say, these 3 eggs or this breakfast costs this much. But why does the price increase over time? It's because of value. There's leaking in value. The money we have, what you can buy with 500 euros will diminish over time. When this first came out 10, 20 years ago, it was worth a lot more than it is worth today. If I keep this in my pocket for another 10, 20 years, it'll buy me even less and less and less. So what is the future? Well, of course we know that the future is digital currency. But let's dive in more specifically and understand what that means. First of all, it's native digital money, the future. By native digital money, I'm specifically not talking about electronic money. So, for example, the euro today, we have the paper version, and we have the electronic version, which is what you see when you log into your online banking account. It's what you see when you go to your ATM and you look at your account balance. It's all electronic euros. When you withdraw it as paper euros, they do a switch. The vast majority of money today is actually electronic money, which they can just, quote unquote, print more by pressing buttons. In the future, with native digital money, it's no longer about pressing buttons. It's no longer about adding supply willy-nilly. It's about using information, private keys where you store it. Okay, so it has to be natively digital money. And secondly, it's going to be global, decentralized, immutable ledger. That's what's going to keep track of the money. On the internet, we call this the blockchain. With Bitcoin, having been invented 10 years ago, the Bitcoin blockchain, for example, it's global, meaning it's accessible anywhere in the world, as long as you have a connection to the network. It's decentralized, meaning there's no central authority that controls it. It's out there, okay? It's immutable in the sense that once the records are on the ledger, on the blockchain, they can no longer be changed by anyone else. And of course, it's a ledger to keep track of which accounts have how much in it. Okay, it has to be global, decentralized, immutable ledger. That's a blockchain. And then it's secured by cryptography. So, and why is this important? Well, this is obvious if you think about it, because if it has to be decentralized, then there's no central authority to say who has this amount, what dictates who's allowed to have so much and not add more. So we revert to mathematics. Mathematics is a fundamental science, if you will. It's kind of like the laws of nature, mathematics. And humans, we cannot overcome the laws of mathematics in the sense that 1 + 1 = 2. That's anywhere in the world, anywhere in the universe. 1 + 1 = 2. And that's the fundamentals of cryptography. It's mathematics and algorithms. Okay, and what's the implication? It's that you have full control. Okay, so the future of money, the future of digital money is where you have full control. Like, compared to the euro, I don't have full control. I might have control of this in my hand right now, but the reality is a lot of shops don't take the 500 euro bill. Is that correct? Yeah. I'm sure you'll take it, but a lot of shops don't take it. There's even talk from the European Central Bank or the European Union of making this, what do they call it? They want to cancel this note. They want to just get rid of it. Because they're afraid of people like me having these notes in my pocket, pulling out willy-nilly. So I may feel like I have it controlled, but I don't have control over the value of it. I can't use it anywhere I want. And certainly, the longer I hold it, the less I can buy with it. One day, you know, who's been to a country where they have high inflation? So countries in South America, countries, you know, in Europe many years ago, we have a high inflation. And basically, you keep your money, you fold it up in your wallet, and then you realize, wait a minute, it's not worth much anymore. And it happens in front of your eyes. For example, so you take the 500 euro note and you just hold it like this, and you open it back up, and it becomes a famous 0 euro. So that's the future of all euros, where it goes to 0. And in fact, some of you may know this is actually legitimate, that European Central Bank authorized to make the printing of these 0 notes. So Europeans are way ahead of their time for knowing that all fiat money goes to 0 eventually. So the point is, when I don't have control of the money today, that's a big, big problem. The future of money with digital currencies, you will have full control. So information is actually ownership. Why is that? Because think about digital currency, think about the blockchain. What entitles you to the cryptocurrencies you have on the blockchain? It's not your identity, it's not your physical holding of the blockchain, right? You could hold a hard drive that contains the Bitcoin blockchain, you know, all 300 gigabytes of it. But just because I have a hard drive, I should bring it as a prop next time with the whole Bitcoin blockchain in my arm. Does it mean I own all 17 million Bitcoins? Well, sorry, not really, because I don't have the private keys for all 17 million Bitcoins. So information is ownership for the first time, in the sense that once you have, or if you do have the private keys of certain accounts, and if there are Bitcoins in that account, you have access and ability to transfer those funds. And when you have ability to transfer those funds, essentially you have ownership. It's much like the paper money again. Well, it's so small now I can't even find it. This bill, even though it's 0 value, it doesn't know that I own it. I own it by virtue of me holding it. Same thing, a Bitcoin account, the information, the private key doesn't know that you own it. But you would own the Bitcoin by virtue of you knowing that private key. Okay, information for the first time is ownership. And it's your money. Okay, so in the future, it's really your money because no one else has authority and control over it. Let's talk about the methods, okay? Self-custody. You will have self-custody of your money because you have control over the private keys. And by the way, the corollary is, if you don't have control over the private keys, for example, if you put your Bitcoins on a third-party custody wallet or third-party custody platform, like an exchange, then that's not really your money. You've really deposited with a bank or with an exchange, okay? So make sure you have control. And then if you do have it, then you have control at all times, okay? It doesn't matter day or night, it doesn't matter for what amounts. In fact, there are no limits on transfers. So you could send out the Bitcoins in whatever amounts. There are pros and cons. If you make mistakes, then that's problematic. And of course, finally, there's no censorship. Okay, this is a big problem. In China these days, in their battle against people using cryptocurrency, what the regulators have done is they've asked banks, and even WeChat Pay, you've heard of WeChat Pay, they've asked banks, they've asked Tencent, the maker behind WeChat, to essentially suffocate and choke anyone who is suspected of moving funds for the purpose of digital currency purchases or sales. So think about that one more time. They will close or freeze your assets, freeze your accounts, if they suspect you have purchased Bitcoin or sold Bitcoin to people. And they'll do it for your bank accounts, they'll do it for your WeChat bank accounts, and so on and so forth. So it's a chilling action. So obviously China is not the best model for this kind of banking governance. I hope it doesn't happen. As long as we live in a free world, this should not happen. But the more it tells me is that the current system, the current world powers are very afraid of cryptocurrency. Because if they have to do that, then it really shows that we have real control over our Bitcoins and cryptocurrencies, whereas a traditional money, where however much it's worth, we don't have control over it, because at any instant they can freeze our accounts. And finally, value is preferred, okay? Value is preserved. All right, Bitcoin as a future of money. What do you guys think? Is Bitcoin the future of money?
Ethereum.
And Ethereum?
Woo!
Yeah. No Bitcoin? Only Bitcoin. All right. Some people, I didn't.
Bitcoin Cash maybe.
Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV, Bitcoin Bobby. I should fork Bitcoin Bobby. Bitcoin as a future of money. So Bitcoin's value will not actually come from the endorsement, acceptance, or regulation by governments. This is a big aspect that people don't understand. I mean, inside this room, we all understand this, but outside of this room, outside this conference, it's very hard for people to understand why Bitcoin has value. I was meeting someone today, and we were talking about, is Bitcoin backed by anything? Well, Bitcoin is not backed by anything, because it doesn't need to be. That's my point. If Bitcoin were backed by something, then the value is solely coming from the entity backing it. Like we're at the Hilton Hotel. Hilton has a rewards program called the Hilton Honors Program. And those points are backed by Hilton Corporation. Well, it's only good if Hilton Corporation keeps its promise if they're alive and if they're working well. If they're no longer functioning, or if they change their rules, then it's really bad, right? So Bitcoin's value will not come from the endorsement, acceptance, or regulation by governments, but rather Bitcoin's value comes inherently from the failures, limitations, and conveniences of its ancestor, which is the fiat money system. Okay? The fiat money system is precisely what's causing Bitcoin's value to go up. The failures and limitations, right, is what's causing the Bitcoin value to go up over time. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. Governments worldwide will do more and more to discredit digital currency, and we're going to see that over the next 10 years, okay? Just like we saw in the last 10 years, we're going to see more and more that governments will do more and more to discredit this. And as Bitcoin turns 10, I'm very happy to tell you that I truly believe that Bitcoin is here to stay. You guys agree? Yeah, all right. So hold on to your Bitcoins, okay? Hold on to it to your dear life, because you'll be very tempted to sell it when it goes up to like $100,000, to like $500,000, to $1 million. But if you do sell, don't sell all of it, okay? Keep a little bit for your children and for your grandchildren. All right, thank you. Follow me on Twitter. Very pleased to be here. Thank you very much.